What's up, everyone? I just we both just watched the longest address to Congress. Um, I was getting pretty bored by it. I thought it was a little low energy towards the end. I don't know about you, Max. I mean, Ben. You guys are just both so similar.
Just we're great in the same ways. Yeah, I thought it was. I don't know. I mean, I would say I watched part of it on two times speed because I was watching the Warriors get a huge victory over the Knicks, which was much more fun than this speech. But it didn't feel that long to me. I thought. I mean, it's weird. I feel like for any of us, like people on the left, to kind of review a Trump speech. I think we're kind of like baked in to be like, well, these were all not true, and like, oh, this was stupid. He took forever. But I mean, I grading it on the Trump curve, I thought he did pretty well for himself. I feel like it was probably exactly what his advisors wanted from it, and I thought he was funny, and a couple times he didn't get too insane. The Pocahontas thing, that was as close as he got. I feel like to like crossing a line where it could have not been great, but he didn't quite reach that point. So I thought it was pretty good. I mean, we can get more into it, but I my biggest takeaway and the thing I thought he did best is spectacle. He knows how to do spectacle. He
Yeah,
knows how to make it feel like a big deal, and we can talk a little bit more about that. But what were
yeah.
your overall thoughts?
I mean, I just kind of wrote down a couple things. First thing that happened, Al Green getting kicked out, representative from Texas. So he was actually shouting that Trump doesn't have a mandate to cut Medicaid and Medicare. So him getting kicked out, Speaker Johnson booting him out, I thought that was, I think, maybe a first for a president's address to Congress. Number two, I thought that Trump had some funny moments, I will admit. I think one of his most effective parts was actually him listing out the programs that most Americans will see as maybe useless or waste. When he
Mm,
was listening, and obviously he's not listing out that they just fired a shit ton of FFA employees and other people that are crucial to the government and to our safety. So he was listing out some programs that
he
Doge
spent a lot
found and
of time on
eliminated.
Doge.
He did,
I was
and
that
and
was
he was listing those programs out one by one, and I thought there was a funny joke. One of the programs is for an African
mhm.
nation. I forgot the name of it, and he goes, "Who even knows what that nation is?"
Oh
I
yeah.
I thought that was a little funny. I think that that was part of that was the most effective. I think part of
I thought he
his
had
speech.
his funniest line in my opinion was during that section when he was talking about like the social security fraud, which I think is super fake,
Yes,
but the
yes,
people who were like 140 on social security, he had a line where he quipped after listing a bunch of those stats like, I had no idea our
and
country was this healthy, Bobby, to RFK,
that
which I thought
I
was
laughed out loud,
that
and
was a good line. I
and
gotta hand it to him there.
to the average American who just thinks that we're paying all these dead people money, we're not paying these dead people money. They're just still on the rolls. They need to be removed off the roll. There's a process for that, so we're not paying this 320-year-old person. I don't know how that got in there, so I think
Well,
that's
I mean,
a
also it just sounds true to a normie. Like, oh yeah, of course our
yes.
government would have a bunch of crazy waste. Like,
Mhm.
they're ridiculous items that he's talking about, but I do feel like to the average American, it like that even if it's not true, they're not going to look it up. So it feels true to them, and it was probably a smart move.
A lot of shouting from Democrats, a lot of booing from Democrats in the beginning. And I think actually, in terms of any other strategy, I think booing in the beginning actually was the most, it looked the least worst. I think, like, instead of just like shouting out, "You lie," I think like collectively booing someone, it doesn't make you look as bad. So I actually thought that was kind of effective at the beginning, especially when he was like,
Yeah, I mean, I've seen already a lot of discourse about like Democrats were a disaster and how they handled this, and I
"Oh,
I don't know that I like disagree with you that that was like effective, but I really don't think there's much of a like good avenue to deal with this. There's not really a
no,
way that Democrats could like come out of this speech the winner. I mean, he has
no,
the mic, he's the
exactly."
president, he's only been in office for a bit, like he can just say anything, and there like there's I don't think there's anything they could have done. I mean, what are they gonna do? Like storm the stage and like pull a
And when you
Chris
do
Rock
try to speak, you
or
don't
Will
have the
Smith?
microphone, so the sound is
Yeah,
fainted. That's why the booing kind of sounds a little better. But that happened mainly in the beginning. think by the second half. Some of them walked out. I know some of the members walked out. I will say something that he did make. He made a balanced budget promise. He said that we're going to balance the budget.
Bullshit.
And I'm like, come on. Even if you're someone that's in MAGA, you know it's complete bullshit. I mean, we see their budget resolution calls for $4.5 trillion in tax cuts for the next 10 years. They're not going to somehow find $4.5 trillion to cut, right? Unless you just completely slash Medicaid and Medicare, which they actually might do that, but I think Trump
They
has
want to
some
do that, but I
political.
don't think
I think
they
Trump
can
has
get away
some
with it.
political astuteness to know that's not popular. The balanced budget amendment I think was interesting, and I don't know. I think that he was listing off tariffs. You know, he was talking about how China has X, Y, and Z against us, and these other countries have tariffs against us. I think something that was notable was when he was talking about all these countries that have tariffs against us, he didn't mention Mexico and Canada because they don't have to. They currently, I think Canada just implemented some tariffs, but before we put tariffs on them, they had no tariffs on us, of course. You know, we engage in free trade with them. So I think it was pretty funny that, you know, he's targeting Mexico and Canada, but his whole rationale for tariffs, if you listen to the speech tonight, was, oh, hey, these countries have been placing tariffs on us for years. So it's only right for us to do it back. But that rationale doesn't work with Canada and Mexico. What he was using for that was, oh, all these drugs are coming in, immigration people. With Mexico, I can understand it a bit, right? With Canada, I think you had about 45 pounds of fentanyl that came into our country last year. And sure, there's probably more that was untraced, but it's a very, very, very small amount, right? And I think a lot of this is his theater. They're saying that tomorrow he might pull back from some of the tariffs, and it's creating chaos. And something that a lot of businesses don't like, the stock market certainly does not like, is chaos. They like stability, and he's not offering that right now.
Yeah, I think everything you said is very true. I mean, I just wonder, like, how long does it take for any of this? Like, we can talk about how all this stuff is stupid and how he is crashing the stock market and Wall Street's not happy about it. But like, when does this stuff trickle down? Is something I'm waiting to see. I think it's pretty funny, and I think this is kind of informative for what Trump does from here on out. He is obsessed with polls. Like, I think he has an election Twitter, if he could use it. He has an election Twitter burner. He's like following Nate Silver. He is like, as much as he decries it, he is obsessed with it. Obviously, that's why he freaked out so much about the Ann Selzer poll. But I thought it was funny. I mean, when he's talking about how much of a mandate he has, I mean, that's pretty expected, bragging about the election results. But I thought it was interesting, like, how much time he spent on polling stuff, where he was saying, like he claimed that it was the first time in modern history that the majority say that the country is in the right direction, which is
wrong.
I'm not
actually.
sure. Yeah, I need to look that
so
up. But
in early 2021, actually, in like about February, March of 2021, when Congress was passing the American Rescue Plan, majority of the country actually did say we were on the right track. So just as recently as that, you know, and
modern
obviously
history
it's wrong.
Apparently means like the last 3 years, but yeah.
But like, see, no one's gonna catch up on that. I think people are gonna. And I thought, you know, Trump actually had some very wholesome moments with DJ. You know, that the Secret Service moment was really nice. And that one student from LA who he announced just got into West Point. Is that what it's called?
Yeah. He announced on stage. On that, so that was my biggest takeaway. It's long been my take that this is something Democrats are really bad at. Politics is pro wrestling.
Yeah.
And Trump, WWE Hall of Famer, WrestleMania alum, he, plus his TV show, obviously, he understands how to do spectacle and how to make something that you're watching feel important. And I thought that was very prevalent tonight. And something I was thinking about is, I'm not 100% sure on this. I didn't see any of this beforehand on Twitter. But every time Biden would give a State of the Union or some major speech, or even Kamala during the campaign, anytime she would give like a huge speech, it was always leaked in advance to the media, where they would leak portions of the speech.
And to be fair, they did parts of that with this one, but not as much.
Okay, they did do parts. Well, I didn't catch too much of it. Maybe I just wasn't too tuned in.
It's conventional to like release some excerpt just so the media can start running on it.
Well, it felt to me that he seemed to at least have like held back a little bit more this time compared to Biden.
Yes.
Why the fuck are we ever doing that to the media? I understand that like it helps them write their stories in advance. It ruins any sense of like, this is important and matters. And so I had a few things. You talked about all of them. He announced the kid who he had in attendance. He announced his West Point acceptance on stage. He signed a bill on stage at this address. and he
Yeah,
made
it
it
was. I
seem,
think like what was it again? It was like a certificate or
I don't even remember, but he signed
it was for
something.
yeah. It was a
It might
certificate.
not
It was
even have been a
displaying a
bill, but
certificate. Yeah, it wasn't a bill.
yeah, to any normie watching, it's like, wow, this guy is
He's
he's
getting
he,
stuff done.
he's
Whatever.
doing
It was.
stuff in front of me
Yeah.
right now on TV. And I thought another one that was great was he talked about that terrorist from
Yes.
the Afghanistan withdrawal who had blown up
Yes.
U.S. soldiers, and he said he's currently on his way here to face justice. It
Yeah.
makes it seem like it's like, whoa, like it almost made it seem like the terrorist is going to walk through the door right now, and like Trump was going to execute him on stage. Like that was the vibe it gave off. And the Zelensky letter too. Last thing, like he said that he announced this letter from Zelensky, and even the verbiage of the letter was like, "We are now ready to go to the negotiating
Yes.
table." It was news.
Yes.
It was like you were watching a
And
TV
that's
show.
what Trump's good at. He's good at
Mm-hmm.
creating news. Whereas Democrats, we tend to like kind of just fit in with the narrative and the news, and we're like, oh, what are they talking about? What Trump goes out there and makes the news. Democrats are afraid of making news a lot of the times. They're very calculated and they don't want to, be you don't want to be the center of attention. Trump's like,
They're
let me be the
afraid
center of
of
attention.
spectacle.
Yes.
Spectacle is unpredictable, and
Which is very
that
different than
scares them.
Obama, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
Obama was his whole 2008 run was a spectacle. I think that in terms of Trump's grading, we always got to grade Trump on a curve. I actually thought he held back at lashing out at Democrats in the beginning. Because they were just
Huh.
booing him relentlessly, and you could just see him. He was just standing there. He
Well,
just
one thing he
and
did say to them that I thought was pretty smart is, so he started off pretty early on, like directly, it was a very meta address to the Democrats, or like
yes,
to the public, but talking about the Democrats, where he said, like, these people, these Democrats, no matter what I do, they won't cheer. If I could cure cancer and
yes,
they won't cheer. And I thought that was really smart. It's honestly, it reminded me of Kamala starting off the debate. She talked about like Trump is going to tell a bunch of lies tonight or whatever. And like
yes,
both these things, they're slightly risky in the sense that if you're wrong, what if Democrats like did super cheer him, or what if
yeah.
Trump decided not to tell a bunch of lies? But they're calculated risks where like it's very obvious that wasn't going to be the case. So it was very smart to set that expectation early. And then Democrats like kind of have that in their head, I almost feel like, where it's like,
Yeah, I
well, he
think it
just
messed
said we
with
were
them a
going to
little
do
bit.
this. Yeah.
And
It's like,
when the
mm-hmm.
camera pointed to the Democrats, they were just like sitting there like with their arms. I mean, I would have done the same thing. I don't blame them. They were sitting there with like arms crossed, like just
Yeah.
staring at him like this. So it kind of fit the narrative. I think the number one thing to kind of take away from this speech is that he is kind of a lame duck president by nature. It's a second term, and I did find parts of the speech to be pretty boring. I will be honest with you. The wholesome parts I liked a lot. I think besides like the first 5 to 10 minutes, I was kind of bored. I know he does do his, there was some parts of spectacle, but I think it was Ben. It was really long. Like
It
I'm
was
surprised you.
extremely long.
I think you didn't feel like you were watching it on like 2 times speech.
Yeah, that certainly
It
helped. I was
was
like, wow, Trump's
long.
energetic. But
It was really, really long, and he was coherent. I will say that. So I'm not gonna say, oh, he's
mm-hmm.
losing it, and no, he was pretty coherent. I understood what he was saying. And I think that the best parts, in my opinion, were him showcasing the people in the First Lady's box. I thought that
Yeah.
was very wholesome. Other than that, I mean,
I
I don't
thought
know, just
one
another
of
Trump
his
speech.
one of his best lines as well, I thought, was he was talking about the border, and he said like Democrats kept saying last year like
Yes,
we need new
you needed.
legislation, we need new legislation to fix the border, to solve the border, and it turns out what we really needed was a new president, and
Yeah.
that's a good line. Like,
Great line, great
mm-hmm.
line. I gotta give him credit there. It was a great line, and well, it's kind of true. It is kind of true. Um, I don't know. I think that
Well, I mean, it's kind of it's not really true.
a
What was
temporary fix.
No, but what was true is that, and this is something that Kamala or Biden or like Mayorkas never really had an answer for. Like, Biden wanted to pass that bipartisan bill. Trump killed it. Like, all that is true. But then he did take all these steps to shut down the border,
Yeah,
and they
but you were in your
worked.
third year,
Exactly.
middle
So
of your
like,
third year, once it's already gone so bad.
mm-hmm. And you've
So
already
you,
spent so much time being like, oh yeah, we need new legislation. The president alone can't do this. But
and then
then,
you do
as
something,
president,
and it
you
just
did do
looks
it.
hypocritical. Exactly.
Mm-hmm. So
So I know that's an area where I will criticize Biden on. I think the administration did not take early enough action on the border. I think that they could have done a number of things. They could have, Title 42. There's a lot of debate with Title 42, but I mean, I don't know. I think that Trump kind of nailed the head on that. I think that he also had very weak moments. He like tried to blame Biden for egg prices, and I think that just didn't land. Because
Yeah,
here's
I
the
mean, I
thing.
think people know that the egg prices very recently went
Yes,
up. Like,
that's
people are
the
dumb,
thing.
but not that
Americans
dumb.
can people can see that. Hey, like they just started going up like a month, like last month, a month and a half ago. Was it?
No,
It's
I
under
hadn't
you.
heard
It's not
anyone mention
Biden.
eggs since like
I haven't. Yeah,
2022 and before
exactly.
this.
And I haven't heard people blaming like normie Americans. I haven't heard them blaming Biden for it. So I think that he was
Yeah.
trying to kind of create some wiggle room for him.
I almost
Um,
feel like he was trying to get out ahead of it and kind of knows that's a problem and was
yes,
trying to like
but
push the
you
blame
see, but
now.
that goes where we talk about him being obsessed with polls. He's obsessed with being popular, and he
This is true.
understands.
Hmm.
He
But that
understands
leads
like
me to a question because we talked about this, he spent not only a long time on Doge, but that was the main event basically. Like, that was about like 6 or 7 minutes in, I think, like right after kind of the intro stuff. Like, people don't watch this whole thing. I mean, who knows how many people watch it, period. But that was like, he wanted people to see that. And so I find that interesting because I feel like there's maybe been some polling of late that like there's some cracks in people's approval of Elon and Doge. So what'd you make of
But
that?
what he did was he brought up like programs that seem wasteful. That's what he did with
Yes.
Doge. He named off like 15 programs. Like one of them was we were spending like $50 billion on like some inclusion thing in Colombia. He goes, well, that's the first. So he like what he was trying to do was reshape Doge into what it was supposed to be from the beginning. This government agency or this government agency that goes and cuts wasteful spending. So
Mm-hmm.
he leaned into the more like popular
So do
elements
you
of it.
think that he maybe is like recognizing then like Doge has a risk of becoming unpopular? Like, there's been some bad stories. Like, let me
I
kind
think
of
he
reset the
knows.
narrative tonight.
I think he knows. That's why maybe he was trying to focus on those things. But I also think they just know that hey, let's focus on these like 15 programs that most Americans are be like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
why the fuck are we spending $50 billion on like condoms and an X place,
Yeah.
even though probably smart to do so. They kind of his team understood that. Other than that, I don't really have any more takes on. I
Well,
think yeah,
there
if
was
I
I got one more take just on that, on the Elon Doge section. I don't know that this was a bad line. In fact, it was probably a really good line, but it fucking pissed me off a lot. Is when he said, like, his big closing line on the Doge stuff was, the
oh
day of rule by unelected bureaucrats is over.
he fucked
It
up
drove
saying
me
that.
insane. No,
Yeah.
I mean, it was probably a good line to a normie who doesn't
Hmm.
think like this, but Elon is, you can pretend he's like this outsider renegade coming in. He is a bureaucrat. He is a
Yeah.
officer of the government now. He's a special government employee. He is an unelected bureaucrat and he has more power than like any unelected bureaucrat in recent administration history, probably ever. I mean, Cheney was the VP,
Yeah.
like, and I feel like this was true all election. Like, Elon to all these people doesn't count as what he is. Like, he doesn't count as a rich billionaire trying to influence politics. Like, I mean, people have said this a million times, but Elon Musk is exactly what these people pretend that George Soros is. And
I think
so, yeah.
I think he probably fucked up saying. I think they're gonna start running ads, not ads, but they're already running memes on social media about it. I think people will under. I think most people understand that it's a little hypocritical to say that. I did want us to move on to Slotkin's address, so let me share with our viewers real quick.
I'm honored to have the opportunity to speak tonight. It's late, so I promise to be a lot shorter than what you just watched. I want to personally, if you've never heard of me, I'm the new senator from the great state of Michigan, where I grew up. I've been in public service my entire life because I happened to be in New York City on 9/11 when the Twin Towers came down. Before the smoke cleared, I knew I wanted to make a life in national security. I was recruited by the CIA and did 3 tours in Iraq alongside the military. In between, I worked at the White House under President Bush and President Obama, 2 very different leaders who both believed that America is exceptional. You can find that same sense of patriotism here in Wyandotte, Michigan, where I'm speaking from tonight. It's a working class town just south of Detroit. President Trump and I both won here in November. It might not seem like it, but plenty of places like this still exist across the United States. Places where people believe that if you work hard and play by the rules, you should do well and your kids should do better. It reminds me of how I grew up. My dad was a lifelong Republican, my mom a lifelong Democrat, but it was never a big deal because we had shared values that were bigger than any one party. We just went through another fraught election season. Americans made it clear that prices are too high and that the government needs to be more responsive to their needs. America wants change, but there's a responsible way to make change and a reckless way. And we can make that change without forgetting who we are as a country and as a democracy. So that's what I'm going to lay out tonight. Because whether you're from Wyandotte or Wichita, most Americans share three core beliefs: that the middle class is the engine of our country, that strong national security protects us from harm, and that our democracy, no matter how messy, is unparalleled and worth fighting for.
Yeah, I think she was, so far, I've seen some takes and just watching that, first clip of hers. I think that she numbering what Americans care about, that's a good way to categorize things, and she seems very confident. I know a lot of people have had bad luck with these responses, but I like what I see so far. I mean, I'm excited to see what else she says.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I mean, this happens every time, but she started off with a lot of background about herself, which I found pretty interesting considering, like, I mean, they want to reintroduce, but obviously she was a pick of a moderate who won in a swing seat. And I mean, hey, we included her in our 2028 presidential candidates draft. I don't think I was the one who took her. I forgot who did, but someone took her. So
I think I
that
took her.
pick's looking pretty good right now. I think she's doing good.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I took her.
Congrats.
Yeah, I think, yeah. So let's watch the rest of it. I think that she talks about the economy right now.
Let's start with the economy. Michigan literally invented the middle class, the revolutionary idea that you can work at an auto plant and afford the car you are building. That's the American dream. And in order to expand and protect the middle class, we have to do a few basic things. We need to bring down the price of things we spend the most money on: groceries, housing, healthcare. We need to make more things in America with good paying union jobs and bring our supply chains back home from places like China. We need to give American businesses the certainty they need to invest and create the jobs of the future. And we need a tax system that's fair for people who don't happen to make $1 billion. Look, the president talked a big game on the economy, but it's always important to read the fine print. So, do his plans actually help Americans get ahead? Not even close. President Trump is trying to deliver an unprecedented giveaway to his billionaire friends. He's on the hunt to find trillions of dollars to pass along to the wealthiest in America. And to do that, he's going to make you pay in every part of your life. Grocery and home prices are going up, not down, and he hasn't laid out a credible plan to deal with either of those. His tariffs on allies like Canada will raise prices on energy, lumber, and cars, and start a trade war that will hurt manufacturing and farmers. Your premiums and prescriptions will cost more because the math on his proposals doesn't work without going after your health care. Meanwhile, for those keeping score, the national debt is going up, not down. And if he's not careful, he could walk us right into a recession. And one more thing. In order to pay for his plan, he could very well come after your retirement, the Social Security, Medicare, and VA benefits you worked your whole life to earn. The president claims he won't, but Elon Musk just called Social Security the biggest Ponzi scheme of all time. While we're on the subject of Elon Musk, is there anyone in America who is comfortable with him and his gang of 20-year-olds using their own computer servers to poke through your tax returns, your health information, and your bank accounts? No oversight, no protections against cyber attack, no guardrails on what they do with your private data. We need a more efficient government. You want to cut waste? I'll help you do it. But change doesn't need to be chaotic or make us less safe. The mindless firing of people who work to protect our nuclear weapons keep our planet.
I think it's interesting how much she's attempting to, like, take the same framing that Trump and Elon has taken. Like, saying, like, we actually do need big change and there is wasteful spending, but let's not do it in a reckless, stupid way that actually hurts us.
But she's taking a very populist type of approach to this, going after Trump and Elon and the Republicans for wanting to pass tax cuts for the rich. She's direct. She's, you could tell she's not bullshitting you. I think that she was honestly the best person that she could have picked. And I mean, I was excited to see her. I know there's people online that are like, oh, why are you picking Alyssa Slotkin? And this is why. I think that just this economy section of her speech was very, very effective.
Yeah. And she's a great pick because, I mean, you should showcase people from swing districts who kind of break the ilk of what people think Democrats are. I mean, she's talking about all these, like, very worker-based issues, which, of course, like, is what Democrats actually fight for. But I think it's important to get that image out there.
Yeah, because this is the economy section of her speech. I think it was the strongest part of her speech. And being from Michigan, I think that gives her some credibility, but also winning in a state that Trump also won, right? I think that was
I thought it was a good line that me and Trump won here last year.
Yeah, but we have different visions. He wants to give tax cuts to the rich. I want to protect your Social Security, which Elon Musk has called the Ponzi scheme. and I'm happy she actually noticed that. There's not enough people calling it. This 2 days ago, he called Elon called Social Security a Ponzi scheme on the Joe Rogan podcast, and Slotkin actually she does a lot of her own social media posts. I don't know if you noticed that. So she kind of she's younger, and so she does a lot of her own social media posts and all that. So I think she's a little more aware of these things that happen online. So I think she was a great pick. If you guys want to watch the rest of her speech, you can just search it up. But she talks about foreign and national security, protecting democracy. But I'm really happy she started with the economy, because I think that's the number one issue today, and that's what Democrats really need to hammer home at.
I wish she could have improved a line calling out how insane and hypocritical the era of unelected billionaire or unelected bureaucrats ruling you is. Since
I wish she would. I wish she would have done that. She kind of went and was like, "Oh, the 20-year-old and Elon Musk have all your information."
And I'm sure all of this
that.
was thought of way before the actual speech.
Yeah.
So there's only so many adjustments she can make. But
yeah, I give her an A. I think that she, just from what we've seen right here, has done a really good job. I'm happy to see. She's a rising star in the Democratic Party, and we kind of knew that because you put her on the list. But I thought that her response was pretty good as well.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we see her listed in a lot of the
I already tweeted Alyssa Slotkin 2028 on the Progressive account. So
I'm sure you will not be the only one, and I'm sure she will be included in every article and poll now. So excited to see her still get 2% lower than Stephen A. Smith in a week. But
that's funny. Other than that, I think we kind of shared all our thoughts. Let us know what you guys think in the comment section of Trump's address, Slotkin's response, and we're excited to do more of these reaction videos. And yeah, we're gonna probably do one later this week if there's any groundbreaking moments from Trump and Vance. Well, there always is, so I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, and a very exciting interview hopefully coming up at the end of the week. I will keep you guys in suspense, but hopefully we'll find out soon. It's a very cool one. We're excited to get to talk to. So stay tuned to the Progressive feed.
All right. Thank you guys. Have a good night or good day or whatever time it is. Nighttime for us. So Ben and I are probably going to go to sleep. No, we're going to stay up for like a couple more hours, but
let's go with a couple more.
More. Okay. We'll see you, everyone. Thank you.
See ya.